Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone one evening and a headline stops you cold. $2,000 checks coming to Americans. Then another one pops up mentioning $1,500 payments for households. Then a third one talks about a primetime speech from the White House. Your first thought is probably the same one a lot of people are having right now. Is this real? And if it is, do I qualify? That confusion is exactly where we're starting today, because right now there is a lot of noise around this topic, and not all of it is accurate. Some of it comes from real statements made by the president and administration officials. Some of it comes from proposals still sitting in Congress. And some of it, unfortunately, comes from scam texts and emails designed to look official. So in this video, we're going to sort through all of it together. We'll look at where the $2,000 tariff dividend idea actually stands, what's true about the $1,500 figure being mentioned online, what unemployment has to do with any of this, and what actually happened during the recent primetime address. By the end, you'll know exactly what's confirmed, what's still just talk, and what you should be doing right now to protect yourself and your money. Why this matters right now. Here's why this is worth your attention, even if you end up not qualifying for anything. When a topic like this starts trending, it becomes a magnet for two things: confusion and scams. People start sharing screenshots without checking dates. Old news gets recycled as if it just happened. And scammers use exactly this kind of uncertainty to send fake claim your payment links that ask for your social security number or banking details. If you're on a fixed income, if you're receiving Social Security or SSDI, or if you're simply trying to plan your budget for the second half of the year, knowing the real status of these proposals helps you avoid two costly mistakes. The first is assuming money is coming and making financial decisions around it before anything is signed into law. The second, and honestly the more dangerous one, is clicking on something that looks like an official notice, but isn't. So let's get into the facts, starting from the beginning, where the $2,000 tariff dividend idea came from. This whole conversation traces back to statements the president made about tariff revenue. The idea is straightforward on the surface. The government has been collecting money from tariffs on imported goods, and the proposal is to send a portion of that revenue directly to Americans in the form of a payment, sometimes called a tariff dividend. The president has talked about this idea multiple times, describing a dividend of at least $2,000 per person and specifying that it would go to what he's called low and middle income households, not higher earners. Administration officials have echoed the idea publicly, saying it remains a possibility for this year. Here's the part that matters most, though. A statement from the president is not the same thing as a law. For a payment like this to actually reach your bank account, Congress has to pass legislation. That legislation has to specify who qualifies, how much they get, and how the payments would be distributed. As of now, that bill has not passed either the House or the Senate. Treasury officials have said themselves that this could take different forms and that no distribution schedule has been set. There's another wrinkle worth knowing about. Tariff revenue itself became legally complicated this year after a court ruling questioned the legality of some of the broader tariffs the payments were supposed to be funded by. That matters because if the funding source is in dispute, the plan built on top of it becomes harder to finalize. This is a good example of why it pays to wait for something to actually pass before treating it as real income. What about the $1,500 figure? This is where a lot of the online confusion comes from. You may have seen the number $1,500 attached to this story, sometimes described as a payment for households. Here's what's important to understand. This figure has appeared in various proposals and secondhand reporting, but like the $2,000 tariff dividend, it has not been confirmed as an approved, funded government program with a payment date. There's another detail that gets mixed into this conversation that's actually already happened, and it's worth separating out because it's real. Late last year, the president announced what he called a warrior dividend, a one-time payment of $1,776 that went specifically to active duty military service members, not to the general public. That number is close enough to $1,500 that it's easy to see how the two get blended together in headlines and social media posts. But that payment was for service members, tied to a specific announcement, and it is a completely different program from any general household stimulus. If you're seeing $1,500 attached to a broader household stimulus claim, treat it the way you'd treat any unconfirmed number. Interesting to watch, not something to plan around yet. Where unemployment fits into this. Unemployment gets pulled into this conversation for a simple reason. Whenever there's talk of economic relief payments, people naturally wonder whether those who are unemployed or between jobs would be included, or whether there's a connected program addressing job losses tied to tariff policy. Right now, there is no confirmed, separate unemployment payment tied to the tariff dividend proposal. What does exist is the standard unemployment insurance system that's been in place for decades, run through your state's labor department. If you've lost a job and are wondering about benefits, that system is the one that actually applies to you today, and it works independently of any of these proposed stimulus discussions. If a proposal specifically targeting unemployed workers under this tariff dividend framework does move forward, it would need to go through Congress just like the general payment proposal. Until that happens, don't assume a special unemployment-linked check is coming. Check your state unemployment office directly for anything you may currently qualify for. The primetime speech, what actually happened? This is probably the part causing the most confusion, so let's slow down here. There have been more than one primetime address from the White House touching on the economy over the past several months, and it's easy for these to blur together if you're only catching headlines. In one of these addresses, the president spent time defending his economic record, criticizing the previous administration, and discussing tariffs as a source of national revenue. During that particular speech, the announcement wasn't a general household stimulus check. It was that warrior dividend for military members we just talked about. More recently, another primetime address focused heavily on a different topic, election security, along with a broader rundown of the administration's agenda heading into the midterm elections. That speech touched on the economy in general terms, including inflation figures, but it was not the venue where a new $1,500 or $2,000 general stimulus program was formally announced or signed into law. So if you saw a headline saying, "Primetime speech reveals new stimulus checks," it's worth being skeptical. Speeches are where proposals get talked about and promoted. They are not where bills get passed. If and when a real, funded stimulus program is actually signed into law, that will be reported directly with a bill number, an amount, eligibility rules, and a distribution plan from the Treasury or IRS, not just a mention in a speech. A realistic example. Let's say you're someone living on a fixed retirement income, and you get a text message that says, "You qualify for your $1,500 tariff dividend payment. Click here to claim it before the deadline." This is exactly the kind of message that's been circulating, and state officials in multiple parts of the country have already issued warnings about it. Here's what to remember. No legitimate government payment program asks you to click a link in a text message to claim money. The IRS and Social Security Administration do not initiate contact that way for a new benefit program. If a payment like this ever becomes real and official, you would not need to click anything or provide personal information through a text or email to receive it. It would be based on the tax and benefit information the government already has on file, the same way past stimulus payments worked. If you ever get one of these messages, the safest move is to delete it. And if you want to double check, go directly to a known official source like irs.gov or your state's government website, rather than clicking any link sent to you. Common misunderstandings to clear up. Let's tackle a few mix-ups worth clarifying directly. First, a president talking about a payment is not the same as a payment being approved. Statements from the Oval Office or on social media reflect intent and proposals, not finalized law. Second, the $1,776 warrior dividend that went to military service members is a real, completed program, but it is not the same thing as a general household stimulus check, and it doesn't mean a broader $1,500 or $2,000 payment for everyone else has happened. Third, unemployment benefits you might currently be eligible for come from your state's existing unemployment insurance system, not from this tariff dividend conversation. Don't wait on a rumored program if you have an actual current need. Apply through your state system now. Fourth, primetime addresses are communication tools, not legislation. Big announcements get made there, but the actual mechanics of a payment program come from Congress and federal agencies afterward. What you should actually do right now. So, with all of that laid out, here's the practical part. If this applies to you, here's what makes sense to do while things remain unresolved. Don't make financial decisions based on the assumption that a $1,500 or $2,000 payment is coming on a specific date. Treat it as a possibility, not a plan. If you receive a message about claiming a payment, verify it independently through an official government website rather than clicking any link you're sent. If you're currently unemployed and need support, apply through your state's unemployment system now, rather than waiting to see if a new federal program appears. Keep an eye on reliable, direct sources, the IRS website, your state government's official page, or established news outlets, rather than relying on secondhand social media posts, which are often where outdated or exaggerated numbers spread the fastest. And if legislation authorizing a real payment does pass, remember that official information about eligibility and timing will come from the IRS or Treasury Department directly, not from a headline promising quick money. Let quotes bring this together. The $2,000 tariff dividend is a real proposal that the president has discussed multiple times, but it has not been signed into law and no distribution date has been set. The $1,500 figure circulating online is unconfirmed for a general household stimulus, and it's often confused with the separate $1,776 warrior dividend that already went out to military service members. Unemployment support tied to this specific proposal does not currently exist as a separate program. Your state's standard unemployment insurance is what applies to you today. And recent primetime addresses have discussed the economy and tariffs, but they have not been the moment where a new general stimulus check became official law. None of this means a payment will never happen. It means it hasn't happened yet. And the responsible thing to do is watch the real process instead of reacting to every headline that uses these numbers. If you're someone who depends on predictable income, that patience protects you, both from planning around money that isn't there yet and from scams built to take advantage of the confusion. Before you go, take a moment to check your own situation directly with an official source if any of this applies to you, rather than relying on what you've seen shared online. If this video helped clear things up for you, give it a like. Subscribe for more updates as this story develops, and share it with anyone you know who might have seen one of these headlines and wasn't sure what to believe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.